Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Shooting the Shit Uncensored. You know who it is. It's the dad bod god, the bald, the beard, and the fucking beautiful Piers Austin. And tonight's episode, we got the one and only Gweedo, I can't even talk tonight. I've had a couple of beers. I'm in the flow, but he's the sire of barbed wire. He is the Outback New Jack, baby. And I'm excited to have Gweedo on. This has been a long time coming, man. We've tried to do this a couple of times. It hasn't worked out, but tonight is our fucking night, and I'm excited to have him on. But before we get into that, I need to take a quick second to tell you about our sponsor, and that is Sleeves.com. Now, Sleeves is your one-stop shop for all your athletic wear and gear. They've got armbands, compression pants, compression shorts, headbands, boots, mouth guards, and they've even got those dirty boxes that you always hear me raving about. And guys, let me tell you, these dirty boxes, God damn, they are the most comfortable boxes that I own. They stay dry, they stay fresh, and they've got funky designs on the front of them, guys, to keep that special person in your life giggling when the belt buckle comes undone at the end of the day, and your partner will be laughing on what's on the front of your boxes, not what's inside of them. I know, bad dick joke, I know, guys. But make sure you go and check out sleeves.com. Use that promo code MWAPOD to get a 10% discount on your final purchase. Also, wherever you are finding us, wherever you are tuning in, I appreciate that shit. But I'm going to ask a favor. If you're tuning in on YouTube, like, share, subscribe, leave us a comment. I appreciate that. It helps us out. If you're listening on a podcast platform, I want you to give me a 5-star review. It helps with our analytics. It helps us bring more amazing conversations to more amazing motherfucking people like yourselves. So get going and do that shit because I appreciate it. But without further ado, let's get into my conversation with the sire of barbed wire, the Outback New Jack, Gweedo. And we are live with the sire of the sire of barbed wire himself, Gweedo. What is up, brother? Thank you for joining me on this episode, man.
What's going on, Piers? How you doing tonight?
I'm doing good, man. I'm doing good. Thank you so much for jumping on with us. As I said in the intro, bro, this has been like almost like a year coming that we've been trying to organize this, bro. So it's been kind of crazy. I'm excited to have you on.
No, I'm excited to be here too. Like you said, it's been a long time since we tried to make it happen. I think a couple different times before this, and it's just the stars never aligned. But tonight, here we are, and we're gonna shoot the shit, I reckon.
That's it, bro. We're going to be uncensored. So this is the place for it, man. But, firstly, getting into it, man, understanding where you're from, because now you reside in Australia, man. But, like, where did you actually, like, grow up? Where were you originally based from in the States? Can you touch on that a little bit?
Yeah, California. I was born and raised in California. Spent some time on the East Coast in West Virginia. Lived in Phoenix, Arizona for a little while. But for the most part, yeah, just good old California, man. The Sunshine State, as they say, I reckon.
The Cali boy, man. Like,
Cali boy.
dude, seeing XPW come back in the day, was XPW like one of the places that you were trying to get into? Like, when did you sort of like start breaking into the business? Was that around that time?
I didn't break into the business until 2005.
Yeah, right. Okay.
So no, not really. I mean, I did watch them all the time, and like I've always been a fan of the death match, and I did like growing up doing the backyard stuff, and I was like, oh, I'd love to wrestle there one day, and when I finally started training and all that, they just weren't around anymore.
Yeah.
So, but I grew up around a lot of the old XPW guys, like my trainers, Pogo the Clown.
Oh
I
shit.
grew up around Supreme and Vic Grimes and Scott Snot, dudes like that. So yeah, it was always kind of like a goal to get there, but again, they weren't around. But getting to grow up in the business around all the old XPW dudes, Chaos and all that, it was pretty cool.
Yeah, and it's interesting, man, because you look at like the indies now, like with XPW coming back and Rob sort of relaunching that company, whereas like you see a lot of the fans going, "Oh, why are they bringing the old guys back?" It's like, bro, most of those guys are in their 50s, most of them are retired, or like sadly, like Supreme have passed away, unfortunately. But like, I think like from their original concept, like I remember being like 17 or 18 years old when I first saw like XPW, and I was like, fuck, man, I was ringing up Extreme Associates office because this is before like online fucking ordering and shit like that. I was calling Extreme Associates and fucking buying tapes and having them sent over to Australia back in the day.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Yeah, I was buying my tapes from little tape shops and stuff like that, and little mom and pop shops that weren't really heard of.
Mm.
It wasn't like Blockbuster or Hollywood Video or anything. It was some little mom and pop shops that had the grimy content, so to speak.
Exactly the shit that we like, bro. But
Yeah.
as far as breaking in, training under Pogo the Clown, which he'd been like XPW was the first time I really heard of Pogo. Like I know he'd been a bit of an indie worker around like Cali and LA around that time. But how did you like meet Pogo and how did you actually start training with him? Like how did that come about for you?
That came about because I started training in 2004. Like I didn't have because I started as a referee.
Mm.
Like I
Extreme.
started with the training, but I did with Mike Modest and Donovan Morgan, Pro Wrestling Iron, and they were Roland Alexander's boys. But the training there just wasn't what I was pitched, so to speak. It was supposed to be Modest and Morgan training, but it ended up being a couple of their other graduates that were doing all the training. It wasn't really anything I was looking for. That it was pretty shit training, to be honest. It was more just like cardio, try to blow you up. We've already got your money. You paid us $2,500. Got your money. Now we're going to try to chase you out of the business, so to speak. And I ran across Pogo and his boys, Rick Luxury, Eric and Dustin Mel, the Stoner Brothers, DJ Riz, who sadly passed away, at an SPW show in Sacramento. And I was just in the parking lot smoking a blunt. And first time I ever met Pogo, and he's just like, I didn't even recognize him, like who he was at first, even though I watched XPW because he didn't have the face paint and all that. And
Yeah.
then like he finally told me who he was, and I was just like, oh shit, now I'm fucking marking out.
Yeah.
And then his boys came out and they had a business card. I still have it back in California in the storage unit. Gave me a little business card, and they're like, yeah, if you ever want to train, come on down. And I hit him up, had a meeting with Pogo in his garage. We sat there and bullshitted for a little bit. Um, I don't want to go into specifics about what I paid, but it wasn't much. It
Yeah.
was more of them like they kind of took me in under their wing, and especially because Pro Wrestling Iron ripped me off,
Mm.
so they took me in, and the rest is history.
And what was it about deathmatch wrestling specifically that just sort of like sparked your interest, like majorly?
Uh, I like the pageantry of it, and it's a spectacle, and it's a lot more dangerous than normal wrestling. I mean, you still got to know how to wrestle and know the psychology of it and all that good stuff.
Mm.
But the danger aspect of it and just the reactions from the fans watching like tapes and stuff, the reactions that they were having, it's like that's the kind of stuff I want to do. I want to have fans doing that ooh ah and like throwing up and stuff like that. Like that's the goods.
Yeah, man. Like I think like around like the late 90s, early 2000s, like deathmatch wrestling was at like was so popular because that was around the time where extreme everything was going on in the world, right? Like there was extreme wrestling, extreme motocross. It's like it was all extreme. And then it was like I remember seeing like light tubes and barbed wire and thumbtacks and shit being like incorporated in wrestling in these magazines we'll get. And I'm like, what the fuck is this? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then I started finding out about what deathmatch wrestling is because all that before then it was like hardcore ECW. That's kind of the and even then in Australia, we didn't really get much ECW stuff. Like we were lucky to get it, but it was like as soon as I saw that I was a kid, I was like, "Fuck, I got to get more of this."
Yeah, this is pretty much the same with me too, because I've watched the ECW and I'm like, oh, cool, they're playing with barbed wire, and then came across CZW on like a tape trade with one of my buddies, and he's like, have you seen this stuff? And it was the first time I seen like glass and light tubes being used, and I was like, ooh, that's pretty.
Yeah,
It's good. And the sound, like, there's nothing like the sound of breaking glass to me. Like, I love that sound, especially when you're going through it. It's pretty amazing.
it must be like an adrenaline rush though to like to go through because I've spoken to a lot of deathmatch wrestlers, and one of the things like I find interesting is like a lot of the times I ask is like why deathmatch wrestling for like that particular performer, and a lot of the times was to do deathmatch wrestling good, you have to at least be a good worker to then be able to incorporate the gimmicks, right? But like anyone can go in there and just go, hey, and hit each other with shit. But to do a good deathmatch, like you look at guys like Tremont, Danny Havoc when he was alive, Nick Gage, these sort of guys that can, Akira, these sort of guys can go out and tell a compelling story in the ring. Like it's as well as incorporate the gimmicks, tease it a little bit, and that's where like as I got older, I appreciate that more. Like I can still enjoy a death match, but it's like I like to watch good death match wrestling now.
Yeah, no, 100%. I'm the same way too, because yeah, any jackass can go out there and just start smashing each other with shit. But you've got to be really good at what you do to be able to tell a story with those weapons.
Yeah.
Because it's all about the storytelling in a death match too. Because if you don't have a good story out there, then you're just pretty much bashing each other just to bash each other.
And that's the thing. The story is important because, like, to me, it's like when I see two guys go out there and have like a death match, and then at the end of it, they're hugging each other and like shaking hands and shit. I'm like, you're forgetting this is pro wrestling. You know what I mean? Like there's still that storyline of it. Like there's still the good guy versus bad guy. It's like you can't just now just fucking hug each other and be like, hey, yeah, good match. Do that shit backstage, not in front of the fucking crowd.
Yeah, 100%. Like that's. I mean, I'm guilty of doing that before. I've shook hands and hugged after matches, but it was more of a turn, like going from heel to face.
Yeah.
And showing the crowd like, hey man, I do have a little bit of a heart. I'm gonna shake this guy's hand,
Mm.
and give him a hug afterwards because man, I just beat the absolute dog piss out of him. And I feel bad. So
But that's the
it,
thing. If it tells that story, then it makes sense to do that. But if it's just like, okay, good, what the fuck? You know what I mean?
yeah, 100%.
But like as far as like you coming over to Australia, what was like the catalyst for you to like to move over here?
The catalyst to move over here, well, it was finding my partner. Like I met her playing Red Dead Redemption online, and things just weren't going right in the States for me at the time. I mean, the wrestling was good. Like, I was getting all the bookings that I wanted, and I had work and all that, but my personal life over there was in, turmoil and all that. And yeah, I met her playing video games, and she came out in October of 2019, and we kind of met, and then I came out here, and I was just originally coming out here for a vacation pretty much. So I
Yeah,
was going to come out here for a few weeks. We started living together, and we kind of realized then that okay, we can actually do, because you never really know somebody until you live with them.
100%.
And we were like, okay, we could do this. And then COVID hit, and then we're just like, yeah, well, let's see what we can do. Get an immigration lawyer and talk to him, and see where we can go from there. And yep, still here 3 years later. So
That's nuts, man. And like when you met your lady, bro, like was she into wrestling? Was she a deathmatch fan? Like where was it at with her?
No, she wasn't really into wrestling, and I didn't tell her because we talked for about a year before I even told her that I was a wrestler. Because I don't really like, even now when I'm meeting like randos, as I call them, just normies on the street. I
Mm.
don't like all my neighbors around here. I don't just go out and tell everybody, "Oh, I'm a wrestler." I kind of just fade that. I keep it on the low because I
Yeah.
don't want people to look at me any different. You need to see David, not Gweedo.
Yeah.
And so yeah, she just really wasn't into it, and I showed her, and she was like, "Wow, that's really fucking cool." She was like, "I didn't expect that." And I was like, "Yeah." She was like, "I can get into that." She was like, "Why do you do that kind of wrestling though?"
Mm.
And I was like, "Ah, you wouldn't understand."
But like, as far as like, coming out to Australia, you were the Agua, ultra violent death match or their hardcore champion, whatever it is that you want to call it. How did that promotion feel like going, hey, I'm picking up moving to Australia, I'm gonna take your belt with me and I'm gonna defend it over there. Like, was there like a time of trying to persuade them to let that happen? Like, were they wanting you to drop the title? They didn't want you to take it, or they were like all for it, going, "Yeah, man, go international with it."
Well, see, that's kind of the thing was because I was like I said, I was just originally going to come out here for a vacation. And I
Mm,
brought my gear and everything with me because I'm like, I'm going to try to get a booking here and there and bring the title. Maybe somebody will let me defend it on their show or whatever.
mm,
And it was all for it. Getting that international recognition on the title and all that good stuff. But I think at this point, he's Trevino, that runs Ugwa. I think at this point, he's probably wanting me to come back and bring that goddamn belt back, which
yeah,
understandable. And that will probably be happening. I want to say middle of next year. I'm planning on making a trip back out there.
yeah,
So, and I'll be bringing that title back and going to Ugwa, and I mean, hopefully, I'll bring it back home with me. But who knows?
yeah, 100%. And how did like, because I feel like bringing that title over, like, were they like, okay, cool, you can take it, just you can't lose it at all. Like, you've got to remain champion the entire time over here. Like, what was that conversation like?
After like the actual move happened and me staying,
Mm,
we had plans to work with a certain promotion
mm,
to do something where I was going to drop it. I was going to drop it to a couple of their guys and let it float around for a bit and then end up getting it back and then bringing it back to the States.
mm,
But, sometimes plans fall through and sometimes people just don't honor their word and don't do what they say they're going to do. And but yeah, that was the plan was he was excited for it, because it's a pretty big deal for Ugwa at the time. I mean, they've grown into a juggernaut now,
yeah,
but back then it was still like they were still on the up and coming and
mm,
starting to get the recognition, but not having the recognition. So he was all like really all for it, and we were all really excited when plans were getting laid out. And I'm like, yeah, man, Mad Dog could have been Total Violence champion.
yeah.
Vixen, like there's a lot of guys, a lot of people out here who very worthy of holding it and running with it, but shit happens.
Did you have to get permission from like them anytime there was a match advertised for that title?
No, no,
No.
he like after Trevino pretty much gave me the reins with it. He was like, he's like, I trust your judgment. He's like, do what you do. He's like, the only thing that I ask is when it comes back to the States that you're holding it.
Yeah.
So yeah, he kind of gave me like free control to defend it and use it how we saw fit.
Mm.
He's really good like that. Torino's really easy to work with.
Was there any promotion that wanted you to drop the title and you were like you were going was there hesitation for it from you on that part, or was it just along the lines of like, hey man, we don't want to keep it on you? That's the whole thing, the international flavor.
Um, Not really. I mean, there was talks, but no, like because I don't. To me, it's just a prop. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? It doesn't really define me as a deathmatch wrestler or a wrestler at all. It's just a prop. But nah, man, like yeah, I forget what your question even was now, but
It's like if a promotion wanted you to drop the title or even or something along those lines, and you had to sort
yeah,
of
no, like he never asked to drop it. He just asked like who, if there was somebody you want to drop it to, who would you drop it to? And
mm,
I would throw out names, and it's just like as long as we have a good story with it,
yeah,
then I'm all for it. But if it's just a throwaway something, you're just gonna job me out for the sake of jobbing me out to get the strap on one of your dudes, it's not really gonna work.
yeah, 100%,
So
100%. And like Deathmatch Down Under, you became a part of them pretty much from their inception. Like, and that's where I first heard of you when I uh, first discovered Deathmatch Down Under before when they started doing shows. And you were like pretty much one of the headline guys there. How did that relationship start with you and Deathmatch Down Under?
it started actually through Casanova Valentine because I know him from the States and we've been on quite a few shows out there together. Never actually got to work till we just worked recently with the when ICW was here. But I just hit him up and asked him because I seen that he was doing that no ring show.
Mm,
And I was asking him who he had been talking to, who the promoter was, and all that. And he hooked me up with Joel. And I just started talking with him and went to a couple shows with him when I first came out here. I think it was like APW or something we went to together.
yeah.
And we just talked. And he was telling me about, starting up the death match down under and wants me a part of it, blah, blah, blah. And that's pretty much kind of how that all came to fruition and me being there.
Mm. Like as far as like coming in and going in, like I think for death matches here, like in Australia, like before Deathmatch Down Under, I'd never even known that deathmatch wrestling was even happening here in Australia. You know what I mean? Like I'm a deathmatch fan. Like I've always kind of followed like the CZW, XPW, GCW, and ICW companies. Um, you know, but I really feel like when Deathmatch Down Under came, they really brought deathmatch wrestling to Australia. What was your like? Did you feel like a certain level of pressure being a guy from the States who is a deathmatch worker, where predominantly that's where a majority of the deathmatch wrestling happens, is like Japan, America, I think Russia as well. But Australia, which was kind of new to having a promotion which was focused around deathmatch wrestling, did you feel that pressure that you had to sort of be one of the veterans, one of the guys that could really sort of lead it into the way and lead it into its existence here?
Yeah, there was a bit of pressure in that respect where anytime you start up something new like that, and especially coming to a different country, and being an American, of course, there's that extra added pressure of this guy's supposed to be really good. He comes from America. Hopefully he performs well, and I really felt like I had to step up my game in that respect, especially knowing that it was going to be on IWTV and there was a lot of buzz around it, and there was going to be a lot of eyes on that very first show, and the pressure was pretty immense. Yeah, like that lots of added pressures in that regard, and it was nothing normal for me, like that's kind of normal anyways because being in the States and working for Crimson Crown, and like right before I left I was going to start a program at Crimson Crown with Matt Tremont,
Oh wow.
and it was like a lot of pressure, and
Mm.
something I'm used to, getting thrown into deathmatch tournaments, and lots of pressure in that respect. And so yeah, there was a lot of pressure going into that first show, and a lot of nerves, I guess you could say, until my music hit, and then all that washed away, and then it's like it's go time.
But has that like happened to you, like as far as like you'll be nervous before the show, but as soon as that music hits, it's like fucking wartime, like let's go and do this.
All the time, every show, man. Like even now, and I've been
Yeah.
doing this since 2005, and even now, like I go up to New South Wales, even like out in Queensland when I go do the tag team stuff with my buddy Chalk,
Mm.
and it's not even deathmatch related, but I still get those nerves and I still feel like the pressure to perform. And so I always tell everybody, anyways, if you don't have nerves before your match, you probably should get out of the business
Yeah. 'Cause you don't
because I mean, you should have that pressure to perform and to perform well all the time.
yeah, I
But
feel
yeah,
it.
it's always like that though. As soon as the music hits, it's just that whole wave washes over, and it's like, yep, it's fucking go time. This is why I'm here. This is why they booked me. I got to show up and show out.
Do you enjoy going and wrestling non-deathmatch wrestling as well?
I do. I do. It's a nice little change, especially tag team stuff, because I don't have to work as hard, I guess you could say, in my old body, because I'm 41, so my old bones are just like, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Let me work some more tag team matches.
An easy night in the office for you, bro. You know what I mean?
Easy night in the office. I don't got to get all cut up and bloody.
Oh, dude, like I think that first match that you had at Deathmatch Down Under with Joel Bateman, that was some like sick shit. Like I remember watching that show when it debuted on AWTV, and that match particular, like I was really excited because I've got friends in the States and they're going, man, wait till you fucking see Gweedo. He is a sick fuck. Like this is gonna be ridiculous. And I sat down and I watched that match. I think it was like a cans match or something like that. Like I remember seeing like the cans on the board, like
Yeah.
um I'm not sure if that was the only stipulation, but I know there was like I remember seeing that, and to me that stood out. Um, that match I think really sort of solidified, and even for Deathmatch Down Under, whereas like Deathmatch Wrestling has really arrived here in Australia.
Yeah. Yeah. It was a good match. Like I really enjoyed that match. I had a lot of fun out there and working with cans. That was my first time doing cut cans, and it was nice actually. It's
It's kind
it's
of weird to say, right? Yeah, it's nice landing.
yeah. It's kind of weird to say, like for even people to hear, like, oh, it's nice, like getting slammed on cut cans. Like, yeah, it's kind of like landing on a little spiky pillow.
But it's interesting. I think like Deathmatch Wrestling, and I saw June Kasai said this in a documentary where it's like the weapons have to connect to the audience where they have to know the pain. And he was like putting like these knives, which everyone has in Japan in their kitchen. Everyone's cut themselves with it. And he goes, everyone's cut their finger with and know what a motherfucker it is for the like when it happens. And I feel like the cut cans where it's like everyone's had a can that's broken and they've gone to pick it up, or a
Yeah,
broken glass and they've cut themselves. They know that pain. So when they see people go through like a grandiose thing, like a pane of glass or like a cut can board, they can kind of relate to the pain.
yeah, 100%, 100%.
Do you find that that's important? Is like you have to make like the gimmicks relatable to the audience where they can go, you know what, I can feel that, I understand that.
I do, but at the same time, I mean, a lot of the fans nowadays too, they're too involved in it, and they're out there smashing each other with light tubes, and it kind of takes away from the effect that we do. Because I mean, let's just be honest. We all have deathmatch wrestlers. We have a very high pain tolerance.
Mm.
Like we could take some pretty damn brutal shit, and to just for fans to go out there and just start smashing each other in the parking lot with tubes and being like, "Oh, this ain't shit." It's like, no, you're taking away from what we do now. And trust me, it is shit, especially when you're going through hundreds and thousands, or hundreds of light tubes in a match, and then you go take a shower afterwards. That's the worst pain.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, like, when I see deathmatch wrestling, and I want to get your opinion on this, but like to me, it pisses me off with the spot where you'll see like three people standing there, or even two people standing there, and they're just like going light tube, bang, one for one, like doing it, and they're just standing there, like just leaning down, picking up, and it's like you take away from like people that use light tubes in their matches, because it's now like if someone sells a light tube shot at the way that they should sell it, it's like you've just pissed on them, because it's like then they're going to look weaker to the audience, right? Because they're like, well, hang on a second, these guys were just fucking smashed like 40 each over each other's heads, but this guy's now like rolling around in pain for it. And that's where I think like that sort of stuff kind of like can taint it a little bit.
Yeah, because I look at that shit too, and I put it out there on social media too. I hate that pitter patter bullshit with light tubes. Like I hate seeing them swung weakly, like how you're talking about, where they're standing there and they're just like, and then the other guy, and he's like, and it's like, bro, like, what the fuck are you doing? You're taking away from what the goddamn light tube is there for. Like, you're just making it look fucking weak. And
Yeah.
then if you got like two other people in that match, and then another person comes running in, you smack him, and then he's rolling around like he's fucking dying off of one tube shot, and you just sit there and smash light tubes over each other's heads for 20 minutes. It's takes away from it. It really does. It just makes it look, I don't know, like stupid. It really does. It just makes it look like it's just, there's a lot of shit that I hate in like the nowadays death matches, especially because everybody's doing them now.
Mm.
Everybody wants to do them. People that have always said, "Oh, I'll never do death matches," and now they're doing them, and it's like they're taken away from the shit that we do.
Yeah.
The
100%.
people who are dedicated to the death match, like, because I made my career off of death matches,
Yeah.
and I take that shit kind of like a little bit personal, and it makes me just want to go out there and just fucking stab them.
But see, that's the thing. Like I interviewed Casey Catal not too long ago, and one of the things, like when I was doing my research for that interview, I watched her first death match that she had with Jimmy Lloyd, and the thing that stood out to me the most was at the start of the match, Jimmy Lloyd's taken like a bundle of tubes and just straight over the top of the head like that, and she sold her ass off for like 2 minutes. Oh, it seemed like a while, like for not too long, but she sold it. Like she went down the ground. She's like, oh, like sold it like, holy fuck, I've just been hit in the head with a hot heap of glass. And that to me was like, that stood out to me as something good because it's like she really sold that pain of taking that hit.
Yeah,
A lot of
yeah,
times,
she's really good at what she does.
yeah,
Like,
man, I enjoy her work a lot.
yeah,
Um,
she's one of my favorites to watch right now. So,
oh, dude, 100%. She's on top of the game, man. She's killing it over there, bro. Like, as far as like in Australia, like, as far as deathmatch wrestling goes here, how would you fare some of the Australians that are actually doing deathmatch wrestling down under here, or deathmatch wrestling in Australia?
I mean, you got good and you got bad. You know what I mean? And you got some that are just doing it for the clout.
Yeah,
But I mean, it's if you get a couple good people, like you get Mad Dog out there or Vixen in a match, and you're gonna have a banger no matter what because they're really good at what they do. Like James Spade, he's good at what he does too. Zero, really good at what he does. But yeah, I mean, it's on par. You know what I mean? Like it's just a smaller scene, just a
yeah.
lot smaller. But it is on par with some of the good shit that's going on in the States and in Japan. And
Do you feel like it's still like over in America, like they respect the Australian deathmatch scene, or is it just like, it's just a small little scene down there?
I guess in certain circles, you know what I mean? Like I could say that my West Coast peeps were all over it at first, but now they're kind of just like, you know what, whatever. The East Coast peeps out there, they're still all over it because, of course, they've got the ties with ICW and the working relationship with them, which is good. You know, like no knocking on that. Like that's really good. But yeah, it just depends on the circle, I reckon.
Mm. Yeah, 100%. And as far as like, the differences between Australia and the States, because you've been able to wrestle in both, um, you know, how do you find like as far as like the similarities of the scenes? Is it like night and day, or is it pretty much exactly the same?
Oh, nah, it's different. It's a lot different. Um, like being on the scene out here has been a real eye opener for me, I guess, because like I've always been a very controversial person, and I say some shit that I probably shouldn't say, you know. But out there in the States, like it's accepted. You know what I mean? Like people will respect you more for speaking up and like having a mouth on you and speaking your mind as long as you're speaking truth. Like they don't give a shit. Out here, it's more of just like if you want a booking, you need to shut the fuck up. Like don't be Guido on the internet. Don't go and spout off and spit your truths and how you feel and all that, because it's going to be detrimental to you getting a booking, which it has, because I can't catch a booking in Victoria to save my life anymore. So that's why I'm up in New South Wales and Queensland now, because I've been pretty much shunned here. But it is
What
what it is.
but what was it that you were saying that really got you shunned? Like, what was it that pissed people off, so to speak?
You see that, and that's the whole thing with it too. Is it when Alex Cologne came out here, right? And I was doing the old Gweedo call outs on Facebook, you know what I mean? And they didn't like that. It wasn't liked. I post a lot of different things, and some people, like, you post one thing on the internet, 10 different people are going to take it 10 different ways.
Mm,
And that's something that I can't control. And it's really something that I don't give a fuck about. Like, you take it, if you want to take what I say personal and think it's an attack on you, then take it that way. I'm not going to try to defend myself against it. And I think that's just what it was, because there was a lot of things, because I got a lot of shit going on back in the States.
yeah.
A lot of personal, shit going on out there with, like, my kids and my ex and all that. And I got a lot of people that don't really like me because of my choices. And I'll make a post shitting on them, and people out here will think I'm shitting on them. And it's like, dude, don't read too deep into what I post. If you think I'm talking shit about you, come to me before you just fly off the hinge and whatever.
But
And I think
in the same sense, if they take your post and they read it and they get offended by it, or the shoe fits, so to speak, you know what I
that's a
mean?
them problem. Exactly. That's how I felt about it too. And that's kind of where that's kind of what I said to a couple of the people too. I was like, if you get offended by what I say, then maybe you need to take a look in the mirror and fix yourself,
Mm,
because it's pretty much a you problem. Like, it's not a me problem. I'm just speaking in general. And god damn it, if I'm talking shit about somebody, I fucking tag them.
yeah.
Like, like
I've seen you do that shit. Whereas, like, there was some like motherfucker, I think from LA, who does like these death matches and promotes like going, yeah, I'm gonna have Pondo there, I'm gonna have Cicada there, and all this shit. And then he's got like some guy, it looks like he rolled off a couch doing a death match on like a fucking tarp. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Right?
yeah. And I've like, because if I'm talking shit about somebody, like, and I'll tag them in it. I've tagged Mr. California. I've had a beef going with fucking Val Venus for a few years now.
Really?
And once a year, I always make sure to make a post and tag him in it, that he's still a fucking big piece of shit, because he's a big piece of shit. And that's just the way and that's what I've told these guys out here too. If I'm ever talking shit about you, I will fucking tag you, because I ain't a bitch.
Yeah.
And, like, don't just stop reading into what I fucking post. And if you think that I'm posting everything about you, then fucking unfollow me. You don't got to go to the extreme of kicking me out
Mm.
and booting me to the side because I've got a bit of a mouth on me. And I'm not going to change who I am and try and conform to anybody else's regime. That's just not me.
Mm. I think that that's the kind of the society way now, where it's like, you know what I mean? Like, if you start speaking truth to certain people, that's when they're like, "Oh, no, 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 we gotta, you can't be that truthful." I get it, like 2022, like, be respectful to people, you know what I mean? Like, you don't need to be hateful and all that other shit.
Yeah.
You don't need to be homophobic, you don't need to be sexist, you don't need to be racist. You know what I mean? That shit's not cool. It's quite simple. Don't be a dickhead. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, be cool. And
Yeah.
I think a lot of people
100%.
get a lot, get really, really overly sensitive for some really ridiculously small shit.
Yeah. And that's pretty much what it all stemmed down to. It was just over people getting overly sensitive about very minuscule shit. And it's like, it is what it is, and it's not something that I can control. And it's really like, to be, like, honest about it, I really could give two flying fucks. Like,
Yeah.
I don't give two shits about it.
Mm,
It is what it, like, I'm happy with, like, if I get a booking, I'm cool, I'm happy with it. If I don't get a booking, I've got a lot of other shit going on in my life to where I'm not upset with it. I'd rather sit home and play with my fucking daughter than go work for fucking peanuts.
yeah.
and just be used and abused. You know what I mean? And I felt like that happened with me a lot in my beginning little run here. Was I was used and abused a lot. You know what I mean? I was used for the name, I was used for the clout, I was used to get the eyes and all that good shit. And then once all that shit happened, I was just cast off to the side. I'm of no use anymore over minuscule shit, like the smallest of the smallest shit. You know what I mean? Like,
Are you saying that that was Deathmatch Down Under? They just sort of like brought you in, used you for your name, and then like removed you from the promotion?
yeah, I honestly feel that way, and I'm not the only one. I mean, I've got, I still talk to quite a few people out here, and they all feel the same way about it too. They're like, man, it really comes off that way, and that's like my fans over there in the States, and even promoters out there that I still talk to, they feel the same way too. They're like, it really seems like you were just used and abused. And yeah, you've got a mouth, but dude, you built your whole fucking career off that.
Yeah.
And so what's the problem? But yeah, like I really feel that way. And I'm not shy to admit it either. You know what I mean? Like it is what I know. I got fired because of my mouth,
Mm.
and I accept that. I accept that it's my doing, but at the same time, it was the wrong way to go about doing it.
Mm.
And like,
What was the conversation like with them when they did sort of say, "Hey, we're cutting ties with you"?
there was no conversation. It was an email. There, there was no conversation at all. They all have my phone number. They could have
Yeah.
called me. I mean, they kind of like I was getting messages for pretty much the whole time from the time I started there until the time I got fired. I was getting messages saying, "Hey, man, you need to calm down on your social medias, or at least put your stuff on private so only your friends can see it, because people are thinking that you're shooting on us and talking shit on us." And it's like, well, I can't control that. That's not a me problem. That's a them problem. If they think that I'm talking, that's on them. And if you
Was
guys think that I am, like, that's on you. Like,
was there anyone there specifically that you feel was like maybe had it in for you, but was like taking more offense to it than the others? Or
yeah, yeah. And I don't think that he's with them anymore, because he's kind of been had a little controversy around him as of late either as well. But
Mm.
yeah, I think that there was one particular referee that just didn't like my mouth, so to speak. You know what I mean? He didn't like me mouthing off. And because I mean, Joel was always really cool with me, and he always tried to work with me, and we would talk fairly regularly. But yeah, I feel like I was singled out by one person just because of my mouth. But like I said, I'm not going to change for anybody.
Yeah. Do you feel like, because now that person's like left that promotion, like do you feel like you can go back to Deathmatch Down Under?
I've talked. I mean, probably after this, I probably won't. But but like because I've reached out, like, even after I got fired, and I let everything calm down for a little while. And to the three people that were pretty much offended by what I was saying and stuff, I reached out in a big group message and apologized. Like, hey man, I'm sorry. I'm sorry if you got offended. I can scale back on my shit talking. And even after that ICW show, as recent as what was that, October, middle of
Yeah,
October.
October, I
And
think.
yeah, like they're, oh well, everything's squashed. It's life's too short to hold grudges, and we'll get in contact, and we'll probably use you again. Blah 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 blah. Nothing. My inbox stays dry, and then just about everybody on that roster is, pretty recently, deleted me off of socials and stuff. So I mean, that tells me a lot. You know what I mean?
Mm.
It's like, don't feed me bullshit. Just be straight up. That way I'm not sitting around waiting for a fucking message or a phone call, and I'm not gonna keep reaching out. I've been doing this shit for way too long,
Mm.
and I'm not that thirsty for a fucking booking.
Yeah.
So I'm not gonna keep reaching out. It's like, if you want to use me, cool. If you don't, cool. But don't feed me bullshit.
Mm.
And
Do
I
you
think that's
would you go back there if the opportunity came up?
Yeah, 100%. 100% I would. I mean, because I know just from being at that last ICW show and all, like a lot of those fans coming up to me afterwards, man, we miss seeing you. You know, the death match down under really needs you back in. Blah blah blah. You know, we love seeing you out here. So yeah, 100%. And I do it for the fans. You know, because I want to give the fans what they want. And yeah, if they hit me back, if they hit me up, yeah, 100%, I'd go back out there.
What were some of the things that you were saying on social media that caused you to lose your opportunity with them?
Oh shit, I would have to go back and look. I'm pretty sure that some of those guys still have the screenshots of it, of course. But like the one particular thing that got me fired was this one guy in the States, and he just kept shitting on me. He's not a wrestler or anything, just just a
Right.
rando dude that I know, you know. And he was just talking shit, and I made a post because he was like, "Oh, he doesn't come see his kids," and blah blah blah. And I made a post about because he doesn't see his kids either, and he literally like a fucking 2 hour flight away from them. And
Yeah.
I'm like, dude, like if you can, it was something along the lines of like, you shit on me or something, but you live 2 hours away from your kids and you never go see them, and you can, like I physically can't, and I'm not even allowed to talk to my kids. You know what I mean? So it's like, don't shit on me. And that was because some like one of them took pretty big offense to it and thought that I was shitting on them when I wasn't, like, at all. And it's like, so it was like little things like that, you know what I mean? And a lot of it wasn't even wrestling related that
Mm.
they were taking offense to. And it's like, don't take offense to shit that I say, you know? Like I say a lot of shit.
Yeah, bro. Like
You know?
we've been friends, and I've been following you on Twitter and all that shit, and I've been friends with you on Facebook for a long time. And I see the shit you post, bro. And to be honest, I pop for a lot of it, man. Like, but like I feel like, yeah, in this day and age, certain things people don't want to see the nasty, ugly stuff. They don't want to read that nasty, ugly stuff, whether it be true, whether it be fact. People sometimes they want to hide from the truth. They want to hide from that shit and think like, yeah, it's all sunshine and rainbows and lollipops and all that shit. But in reality, bro, life ain't like that sometimes, man. Sometimes you got to call someone a motherfucker. Sometimes you got to tell someone to fuck off, and that's
And
life.
that, and that's it, man. And that's kind of what it all stems to, you know? It's like a lot of people don't like to hear the cold hard truth.
Mm.
And even if it's not in reference to them, they take it as such. And it's like, just chill out, man. Like I get it. I get how society is nowadays, and you know, very respectful about a lot of shit, but you know, I shouldn't have to hide my feelings and not post what I don't want to on my social media. It's my fucking social media, you know, like straight up, if I want to post, I'll post whatever the fuck I want to post. I post some pretty raunchy ass memes. So, you know, I say some pretty fucking outlandish shit sometimes, you know, but
Mm.
I don't say anything that should get me canceled. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
I'm respectful of everybody, and you know their everybody's pronouns, and you know who they are, and like much love. You know what I mean? Like it's too
Yeah.
much fucking hate in this world to promote hate. So like it's just I don't know, it's a fucked up situation. It really is. But I mean, it's politics as well. You know, and I don't do politics, and
Is
that's kind of
it like politics in wrestling has been around for fucking generations, man. Like,
oh yeah.
do you comparing like the Australian scene to the American scene? Do you experience much politics in the business here?
Oh yeah, I experienced more politics here than I have in my entire career in the States. I
No
mean,
shit.
yeah, there's always politics out there as well, but it's more in your face type shit. Like they don't hide the fact that they're politicking you. Out here, it's kind of like undercover politics, and you end up finding out about it through like a third party
Mm.
when it should be like confronted right in your fucking face. It's a lot of like sugarcoating shit and stuff down here. But yeah, the politics here is deep, like really deep. That's why, for the most part, because I've noticed, like most companies out here, they've got a set roster,
Yeah.
and most of those dudes they don't go work anywhere else. They work for like one company, or they'll work for like two or three companies.
Mm.
And I think that's kind of where the politicking comes in too. You know what I mean? Like it's kind of like, hey man, you work for us, and we'll give you the world. Don't go work for so and so or so and I think that's kind of where it is, and I think DMDU did a good job in regards to that and bringing in people from different companies, because I remember that heavyweight title tournament they did, and there was like heavyweights from all over the country
Mm.
on
Yeah.
that show. And I think that was like a good way to kind of like break that barrier. But yeah, for the most part, like here in Australia, I've noticed that it's like everybody just kind of works for the one company, or maybe two or three companies. They don't really go out far.
I think as well, it's a smaller. It's Australia is a lot smaller than the states as well. So like in a state wise, like in Melbourne, in Victoria, like shit, like how many companies are there? Like maybe 4 or 5.
I think there's 6, and I think that there's a new one that's starting up too as well. That MXW or something like that, or
I
something
think
like that.
it's
Yeah, I think that's. But yeah, and that's something too, because coming from California, literally in that whole state, there's about 50 something wrestling companies in the entire state.
mm,
So you're never like hurting for work or bookings.
yeah,
Out here in the entire country of Australia, there's like what, 15 companies maybe?
20. Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, 20 at the most. So it's kind of like that as well. So you don't really have much opportunity to get out there and work. And then if you do, everybody's kind of clicked up. Like you got Venom Pro Wrestling, they pretty much just use Venom guys and maybe a couple guys from Nightfall. You know, like Suplex is pretty much like Suplex.
Yeah,
And then you got like BCW down here, and it's mainly just like the same guys all the time.
yeah.
And then you got like the Mad Dogs and the Vixens who go work like APW as well, BCW, DMDU, because they don't get involved in the politics. You know what I mean? They're like, fuck your politics. I'm working where I want to work. If you pay me, I'll come work.
Did you experience that shit like for yourself here? Like, did you have a company say to you, "Hey, man, don't go work for this Fed. Don't go work for this Fed. Don't talk to this motherfucker. Like, stay out." Did they try and do that shit with you?
Not so much like going and working for places, but talking to people. It's like, don't talk to this person because they're just like they they like to stir the pot. You know what I mean? Like shit like that. Like it was mainly just don't talk to this person, don't talk to that person. But it was never like I haven't gotten anything from anybody about working for anybody else. Like don't go work for them, don't go work for them. Oh well, I mean, maybe like a backyard fed in Adelaide that wanted to use me, and they're like, "Oh, don't go work for them. They're a backyard fed." And I'm just like, "Okay, cool, thank you, thanks for
Yeah.
that heads up." But yeah, not so much that now.
So you had a backyard Fed try and book you in Adelaide.
Yeah,
Hey, man, the payday's a payday, bro. Right?
well, to a certain extent. I mean,
Yeah.
if they would have paid my flight and gave me a nice $200 or $300 payday, yeah, cool. But no,
Yeah.
not going to drive myself up there for $50 in a handshake.
Yeah. Exactly. And you might not even get the $50 or the handshake.
That's it.
But like, because it's interesting, man. Like, because I always find like wrestling politics and the more people I speak to in the industry, I always tend to feel like, man, like, how can you have politics in like an industry where like hardly anyone's making a living from this shit here, right? Like, what I mean, at this stage, it should just be fun.
That's it, and that's why I do it now anymore. Anyways, it's like I just want to have fun. You know what I mean? I want to go out there, have fun, maybe get enough money to buy me a fucking Big Mac on the way home, and just that's what it should be. But it's getting more. businessy. You know what I mean? Everybody's like trying to make a big buck off of it or something, and it's like so of course they're going to throw that politics in because now money's involved.
Mm.
And it's like, man, well, we're not going to fucking get rich off this shit anyways. None of us are going to retire as indie wrestlers
No.
ever.
Do you feel like Australia is at a point where like a Fed could blow up, where it could be like a national thing where like guys and girls and people could be making a living from pro wrestling out of Australia?
If they get signed to like a big company, yeah. But
But I'm saying,
I
like,
don't.
do you think it's possible for him to have a company here based in Australia where people are wrestling in Australia and making a living from wrestling?
I mean, that's kind of like one of those questions where I don't know if there's a right or a wrong answer, but
Mm.
like I don't. I just it's possible. I mean, anything's possible. You know what I mean? Like, look at GCW. Like, they turned an indie company into a juggernaut, and those guys are getting paid well. You
Yeah.
know, and I know Rob Black pays his guys extremely well. You know what I mean? He pays those guys good fucking money. So there's always a possibility, but it just depends on who's running it. You know what I mean? It's because your greatest enemy is yourself, and a lot of these promoters and bookers, they're their own worst enemy. You know,
Yeah.
it's like their egos will break a company quicker than shit.
Mm.
And it's possible. It just depends on who's running it.
Yeah. Like, do you feel like as you said, the promoters like are kind of running their feds into the ground at some points? Like, do you feel like what do you mean on that aspect? Is it like these guys are like trying to put themselves over every match, or like they're just
Yeah,
booking poorly?
yeah, 100%. It's more because I'm a firm believer that a promoter shouldn't be a wrestler, right? Now, in some aspects, it's worked, and in a lot of aspects, like especially in the states, I've seen it crumble. You know, and a promoter puts a title on himself, and it's like, well, yeah, duh, because you're the fucking promoter. Of course, you're going to be the champion of your own company. It makes sense,
Yeah.
but it
Well,
doesn't
as
make
well,
sense.
because you know he's going to be there every show.
Yeah, that and then yeah, so then you got that too, because there's a lot of cancellations and all that good stuff as well. But most of the time, like if you put a title on somebody or give somebody that, push in your company, they're going to be there every show.
Mm.
Because and a lot of these people that know show and all that shit, anyways, they're not the champions. The champions always rock up.
Yeah.
It's always dudes that get used and abused that are just like, ah, well, fuck it. I'm not
Mm.
coming back. Like, you're not giving me a push. You're not doing anything. I'm going to go ahead and cancel. You know what I mean? And I think of like with the promoters, like getting back on that subject, like promoters, a lot of them have egos, and especially if they're wrestlers and they think that because they're running the company and they own the company that they should be the top dog in the company.
Yeah.
And that's not how it should work. It really shouldn't be. It should be who's the most over. And yes,
I think as well, like it's almost like a promoter. Like if you own the company, you want to be the booker. You want to be the guy who putting the ideas out there, and like that I understand. Like I work for a few promotions, and I have like the promoters come up, hey man, I got this idea. What do you think? And I go, I don't like it. What about this? No, I don't like your idea. I'm going to do this. And I go, okay, cool. And people go, why didn't you try and push it? I'm like, because it's not my fucking money, bro. Like I'm not financially invested in this shit. He asked me a question, I gave him an answer. He didn't like it. Fuck it. Like at the end of the day, it doesn't really fucking matter. You know what I mean? Like I'm not going to go home and cry about it and go, oh man, he didn't really fucking take my idea. Cool, bro. I'm just here to help. You asked me, I gave you an answer. You didn't like it. Cool, bro. Move on. No big deal.
yeah, 100%.
You know.
But yeah, like oh, this country's kind of weird in that aspect, though. It's like I said, it's kind of night and day from the states,
Mm.
and but the same shit goes on in the states too. Because I've seen lots of companies where the promoter is also the top star, and it just the company crumbles. It starts off really hot, and then the fans start seeing what's going on, and they're not stupid. Like, of course, we all like to think they are, but fans aren't fucking dumb and
Mm.
they can see through the shit, especially with social media nowadays. Everybody knows who everybody is in the company. They know if you're just a wrestler there, or if you're a booker and a wrestler.
CZW, prime example, man. Like you look at DJ Hyde there,
Yeah,
like the fans were at the point where, like back in like years ago, they were just like, "Fuck, man, just why are you putting yourself on a show, bro?" You know what I mean? Like he had that fuck off heat, not the like, "Oh, we're giving you heat for a fucking thing." And I don't think it was necessarily overly bad what he was doing, but like I think he just pissed off a lot of the fans.
yeah, and that's pretty much how it went down with CZW is, because DJ Hyde's a fucking scumbag, anyways, apparently. So, and like the fans just started seeing it, and he took an absolute juggernaut of a deathmatch fed, and it's reduced to pretty much ashes now. I mean, yeah,
And
they've come back. They're getting ready to do their ultraviolet underground again. I've seen that's coming back. They just did the tournament of death. So kind of seems like maybe DJ's getting back to the old roots, but at the same time, I think that the damage is already done, and he's not going to be able to recover the way he thinks that he's going to recover.
but bro, even before the pandemic, man, like they weren't drawing fucking big numbers. You know what I mean?
No,
Like, and you look at their roster, bro. Like, you go back to when like you broke into the business, and a few years before that, CZW had core guys.
yeah,
Like 2017, 2018, 2019, maybe even 2016, 15. You just saw they were just guys there to get a booking and to, hey, I work CZW, get clout off the name of working a CZW show.
yeah, 100%,
You
hundred
know,
percent. It kind of still seems that way too. Like even though they're going back to their old roots, they don't really have. I mean, the Tournament of Death was a pretty stacked show. I'll give it that. But at the same time, you look at all the other shows, and it's like you don't even know who the fuck any of those people are.
yeah, but you know what? In hindsight, in that and looking at it from another like idea, I like the fact that I can go to a show and not know who the fuck people are because then it's like, okay, cool. I'm getting to learn and getting to see some new talent that I haven't seen before. Now, it
Yeah,
sucks when the talent that are on that show that don't have the name value aren't good. You know what I mean? Because then
yeah,
it fucks up your brand, it fucks up your company. Oh, don't go there. They got shit workers.
yeah, true, true. I agree with that.
You know, so I
Because
mean,
and that's kind of why I like to go up. Like when I went up to Queensland and worked with Nightfall.
mm,
I didn't know any of those guys, but it was a nice, refreshing change to go watch and be a part of a crew that you don't know who anybody is, and it's a learning experience. And then you get to sit back and you get to watch and be like, okay, well that guy's good. Oh, that guy's fucking the drizzling shits.
yeah.
So I agree with you in that respect. It's nice to watch places that you don't really know any of the guys. Kind of like with death matches. I like to watch. I want to see tournaments where it's not the same 8 people in it or the same 16 people that are in every other tournament. You know what I mean?
Right, yeah.
Like give us fresh faces, give us new people that we can watch. Like let's see how these guys are. Maybe we
But
can get
But I get it though, like they have to have names to draw the people in. You know what I mean? Like
yeah,
you got to have
100%.
like a necro butcher in a deathmatch tournament because like a lot of crazy motherfuckers are going to go, "Hey, I want to come and see necro."
Yeah,
You know, like
yeah,
that's the.
100%.
But I think that that's the business, man. Like you know, like even promotions, you got to book who you can book, and you got to put on shows that you know are going to be able to put on good matches. And sometimes,
Yeah,
man, like no
and
name guys.
you always want to put them asses in the seats too. Because there's overhead. So,
Mm,
you want to make sure that all your boys and stuff are paid for. And if you don't have the names on the show, nobody's really going to want to come watch it. Like I could throw a show tomorrow and have, 20 people on there, but all of them are just like, they don't have that big name behind them.
mm,
And the fans are just going to look at it and be like, ah, shit, I'm not going to go pay $25 to watch this. I don't know who any of these fucking guys are.
yeah,
But if I put on a show and put in somebody like, bring in Matt Tremont
mm,
or something like that, then people are going to show up because Matt Tremont's on the card, and
yeah,
everybody wants to be Matt. So, I mean, yeah, it's kind of a double edged sword,
yeah. It
so to
definitely
speak.
is, man. But like as far as promoting, is that something that you would have an interest in doing? Is like starting your own fed here, and you know, going down that route.
I've thought about it, and I've actually pitched the idea to a couple of my mates down here, and there might be something in the works. There might not be something in the works. But I mean, we've definitely pitched and threw some ideas back and forth. And I think it's just the right time and place
Yeah.
to do it. It's just, I just got to wait until we feel like, okay, now's the time to go ahead and throw that money grab out there and that, throw that fucking hook into the water and see what bites.
Yeah.
But then at the same time, I mean, I don't have the best reputation here in Victoria, so like, is anybody really going to show up to my show? Am I going to be able to book the people that I want to book? You know what I mean? Like, there's a lot that goes into it, and I've promoted one show back in was it 2015? I ran a show,
Yeah.
and I don't really like to do that, like, just really wasn't my cup of tea to do the whole booking, promoting, all that shit. Like, that's
Yeah.
just a lot of work. Yeah, it's a lot of work, and I didn't even work on that show. You know what I mean? Like, I just sat in the back and did the booker promoter and made sure everything was running right. And didn't get very many. I think I drew like 50 people, so it's like I barely broke even with the paying the boys and the building. Like, I got the building pretty fucking dirt cheap, but yeah, it's just it's a major headache, and
Yeah. I
I
can
would
imagine.
and I do like to wrestle too. So if I'm running a show, I would want to wrestle on it. But at the same time, I probably shouldn't be wrestling on it because I'm running the show and I need to make sure that everything's going the way it should be going instead of focusing on my match or, because that's the problem with promoters who are also wrestlers too, is they've got all this other bullshit they're doing and then they've got a match to worry about as well. And then if you're working the promoter wrestler and you're trying to get your match organized and it's constant like talking for 2 seconds and then them fucking off and doing something and coming back talking again, and it's like, well, fuck it, man, I guess we're just going to call it out there because I'm tired of all this fucking Mickey Mouse bullshit.
You mentioned like not having the best reputation here in Australia. Is that all predominantly, going back to like your social media stuff, or is there something more deeper that's given you that?
No, it all goes back to my social media stuff, and yeah, it's all just my social media shit,
Mm.
because I mean, I'm a fairly decent dude, you know what I mean? Like, I'm pretty chill and easy to talk to. I've always been easy to work with, and it's just I've got a little bit of a mouth on me, and like I said, I hate politics, and if I feel like I'm getting politicked out, I'll let it be known. And
Mm.
then if there's no changes to it, then I might make a fucking little slight underhanded fucking post in regards to it, But yeah, I think it just all stems back to my social medias and just my whole attitude.
Yeah, man. No, I look, I can understand that, and I can see it from what you've explained. Because, like I said, we've been connected on social media for a couple years, man, and like I see some of the shit, and most of it I just pop for because it's like, I mean, like it just seems to me like you're just fucking with people in a lot of senses. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But like in this day and age, man, people are very sensitive. People are very touchy on a lot of things, man, and find offense in the slightest thing.
No, and that's what it all stems back to too, is it's just the way that society and the times have changed. And yeah, everybody's so super sensitive now. And everybody takes everything personal. And it's like, man, don't like we all just need to kind of chill out and just relax. And who cares if I run my mouth? That means more people are watching me, because Guido's over there talking shit again,
Yeah.
and I've got a lot of eyes back on me, and I stay in everybody's thoughts and all that shit, and that's not necessarily a bad thing,
No,
because with me calling, like when I was doing the little call outs on Alex Cologne, and I had a lot of people that were like hitting me up and stuff, be like, dude, are you gonna work Alex? And I was like, I don't know, I don't think so. It hasn't been said, nothing's been said about it to me, but if I put it out there and people are fucking watching it and they're biting on it, why not? Let's make some money, like, but
so it wasn't like there was any heat between you and Alex. You were just trying to
no,
angle to fucking get a payday and get a match.
Yeah, there was like absolutely no heat whatsoever. It was exactly that. Just put out a little bit of fucking put out the feeler to see if the fans want to see it, and just work an angle out of it, you know. But yeah, there's absolutely no heat. Like Alex is a cool dude because I went to that show, to a DMDU show, even though they fired me and stuff. I still went to that show because just to say what's up to Alex, you know, my fellow American homie. Like, what's up?
Yeah, 100%,
but
man.
but yeah, it was more just to see, you know, what we can get out of it. See if the fans want to bite off of it. See if we can make some fucking money and have some fun in the process.
Mm. As far as like deathmatch wrestling, we touched on like it being a dangerous genre of wrestling. As far as injuries go in the business, though, like what has been some of the most gruesome injuries that you've sustained during your career in deathmatch?
The most gruesome injury that I've sustained happened here
No
when
shit.
yeah, when Callan jumped off that fucking truss and smashed me and broke my fucking rib. That
Yeah, that
was
looks
that
gnarly as
was
fuck.
yeah, that was the most gruesome injury that I've had. Other than that, I mean, I don't know if you've seen, I shared when I slit my forehead open, the big ass fucking scar that I have going down the middle of my forehead.
Hmm.
And that was when I wrestled Eddie Only and, you know, going down to do my little gig thing and came up and it was like, oh, I'm not bleeding that much. So I go down to do it again. He thought I was done, kicked me in the back.
Oh
And
shit.
but other than that, like I've had the typical, like I always have issues with my ribs. So I get bruised ribs pretty fucking easy.
Mm.
The broken rib, mm, dislocated my shoulder, fractured my tailbone. But other than that, like I haven't really had anything serious.
A bruised rib is a fucking motherfucker of an injury, though, man. Like that can
Oh,
fuck you worse than a break.
it's the worst, man. And then trying because I had I think the last time I bruised it was at Ugwa, and it was in a rumble type thing or whatever. And I still had two more bookings to get through that weekend. And I was
Yeah.
like, man, I'm not going to cancel just off a bruised rib. But at the same time, you know, you can't even wipe your ass properly because you can't move. You know, you can't even really, you can't cough, you can't sneeze, like everything you do. And it's like, fuck, now I got to go wrestle again. Hopefully I can bandage it up and wrap it up, you know, real good. And just be like, yeah, like it's pretty shit. Bruised ribs are the worst, man. Like the absolute worst.
Uh,
I would rather take a broken arm over a bruised rib any day.
yeah, I've had that. I've had one like for the last few weeks, and it's literally been like I've been getting this pain in my back where I'm just like, I'll be sitting here having like a conversation with you, and then it'll spasm, and I'm like, oh fuck, I gotta breathe. And it was actually funny because I had to like I was doing a podcast with Robbie Zuko and Tyson Gibbs, a couple of guys based out of like veterans based out in Sydney, and it's like we're having this conversation. I'm like, oh yeah, Bob, and they're like, "You're right, dude." And I'm like, "Yeah, just my back's really sore." And Robbie Zuko, who like 4 days beforehand had a steel cage match and went flying through the fucking steel cage, is like, "Oh, poor you. Did you go through a fucking cage Saturday night?" I'm like, "No." He's like, "Then shut the fuck up." And I'm like, "Oh, okay."
That's usually about how it goes.
Yeah, exactly. So that's why, like, I've learned not to sort of complain to wrestlers when I'm like, "Oh, fuck, my back's sore." "Oh, really, sunshine?" So I try and keep that shit kayfabe into myself. But man, look, we are getting to that time. It is that 1 hour mark. 1 hour and 13 minutes of this podcast has just flown by, but it is that time for 60 seconds with Piers. How this is going to fucking go down is I've got a bunch of random ass questions that I'm going to fire at Gweedo, and Guido's going to answer as many as he can in 60 seconds. Gweedo, are you ready to start the shit going?
Sure, man. Put some pressure on me. Let's go.
All right, let's go, man. All right, favorite song to sing at karaoke?
I don't do karaoke.
All right, early bird or night owl?
Oh, I'm a night owl.
Yeah. Which reality show would you rather appear on, Survivor or The Amazing Race?
Oh man, Amazing Race.
What is the funniest thing to happen to you recently?
Funniest thing to happen to me recently. Oh man, phew. I don't know my life.
What is the shittest gift you have ever received?
Oh fuck, man. Herpes.
Oh, oh Jesus. If you were to release an album, what genre of music would it be and what would the name of the album be?
Oh man, it would be. I guess it would be rock, and it'd be go fuck yourself.
I like it. If you have 24 hours to spend $2 million, how do you spend it?
I'm gonna give $1 million to my mom, and then I'm gonna put the rest in trust funds for my kids.
Snapchat or TikTok?
Oh fuck. Do I have to choose?
One of
TikTok, I guess.
yeah. Which household chore do you hate doing the most?
Oh, probably vacuuming.
Yeah. Okay. So, last question is in 5 minutes' time, you are being shipped to outer space. What two personal belongings do you take with you, excluding human beings?
I'm gonna take my head stabber and a couple porno mags.
Love it. Hey, man, you need to have a knife and a couple porno mags to get through the day. I can appreciate that. But, man, I appreciate you for coming on. Where can everyone find you on social media, support you, get some merch, and follow you?
You probably want to stay off of my Facebook. I'm pretty sure that's nobody wants to go on there. It's a pretty horrendous fucking thing. But yeah, you can find me on Facebook. I'm under my shoot name. Or you could type in Gweedo and you should be able to find me that way. I think my Instagram handle is Gweedo209 or 4209. And Twitter is Gweedo209 or Gweedo4209. One of the Twitter and like it's one of those two.
Just search Guido, you'll see his mug
Yeah,
turn
you
up.
just find me. Yeah, that's easy. Just Guido, baba boom. I should pop up. There's only one.
Well, look, I end every interview with one particular question, and I'm going to ask you this. In this interview, what is the one question that I did not ask you that you wish I did ask you, and how would you have answered
Ooh, that's a good one. Shit, I don't know. You covered a lot, and it was actually a pretty good interview. But if there was one question you could have and should have asked me, is how do I feel about those two jackasses you had on your show the other day that were talking about death matches, and they were kind of shitting on explicit doing the no ring thing in the pit.
Yeah,
And
that was Tyson and Zuko, man. They've been in the business for about 20 plus years. So
yeah, and I would have just answered it pretty much like, man, wrestling's like ice cream. There's many different flavors, and if you don't like the chocolate that we're giving you, then go eat some fucking strawberry and leave us alone.
mm,
We like doing what we like doing. If you don't like it, then you don't have to like it, but you don't have to shit on it. You don't have to
yeah.
try to make us fucking look bad and feel bad for doing what we do because we enjoy doing it and our fans love it.
Mm.
So
Hey
yeah,
man, look, I'm a fan of deathmatch wrestling, and in that interview, I actually did say, "Hey man, look, you know, if it's good deathmatch wrestling, it's like anything. When it's good, it's good. When it's bad, it's fucking bad."
oh,
So
100%. I'm not even going to argue that fact with you because if it's good, it's good. It's bad, it's bad. The same with regular wrestling too. If there's good wrestling and then there's bad wrestling.
yeah,
So but yeah, wrestling's like ice cream, man. Many different flavors. Find yourself a flavor that you love and eat it up, but don't shit on the rest of them.
fair enough, man. That's a good way to wrap it up. Guido, thank you for being on, man. I appreciate you. Thank you for everyone for tuning in. As I said at the start, make sure you like, share, subscribe. If you're listening on a podcast platform, go and give us a 5-star review. I appreciate it. It helps us out a massive amount. But guys, it's time for us to ride off in the sunset. Take care. All the best. Peace.